What's happening, everybody? This is the Next Fix podcast. Got my boy Ben Monnette, and he's going to share with us a little bit about why he's a part of this this community of reformed scumbags, ex-addicts, and rock bottom specialists that we all are. So Ben, welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you, Ryan. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man, it's been a long time coming. I'm super excited to hear your story. And I don't know too much about it. It's kind of like how I like to do things. I kind of want it to hit my ears. Same time, Ben and I don't have too much pregame going on here. So let's get into it, brother. I want to know when the train started coming off the tracks for you, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. I think the trains have always been off the tracks, but that's the crazy thing about addiction is I was always to convince myself that I was either going back towards the tracks or at least one of the sides of the cars were on the tracks, or one of the wheels were on the tracks. But yeah, I grew up, I didn't have a very traumatic childhood, so I was blessed, right? I had a loving family. I played Division I college soccer on a scholarship, and I think that would be the first time, like, looking back and doing a reflection of my past, is that's when it started to be more of a weekend getaway, right? It was more of this is something that I need, right, to survive, right? And it continued to be that way, and it was just a part of me. I always, people, there's some individuals that, well, if I have a bad day, I drink, or if I had a great day, I'm celebrating, I'm drinking. It didn't matter what my day was, right? The end result was drinking. And I was able to find ways to convince myself to drink. I'd start planning my days around that, right? And that's when it kind of started getting a little bit, off the rails, right? And then
that's what I call, Ben. That's what I call mental gymnastics, man. My brain could turn any scenario into of course this is a great idea. I go to that liquor store. It's not only going to help me, everybody's going to be better because of it. My brain could figure out a way that it was it was a win-win.
So powerful. Our brains are so powerful. I mean, we all know the feeling of getting up in the morning and feeling like crap and having to go to work. And it was that's when the days was the worst, right? And then as my day went, past the lunchtime and towards the time I'd get off, I'd start feeling better. I'm like, how does this work? I should be, feeling worse. But my brain was able to convince my body that, hey, I know I'm going to get that fix, that substance. So let's make him feel better so he gets it, right? And it's just how it's interesting to really look into how powerful our brains are. But yeah, so that was, after graduating college, it was kind of a thing. It was never a, hey, I need help thing, right? Probably I did, but I was able to convince myself otherwise. And
so
then
where's your awareness at this point, Ben? Is it anywhere on your radar that
no?
Look at everything you're telling us now is hindsight, right? In the moment, you're clueless. You think you're 100%.
No, I was in a young, my early 20s. I still was being successful, right? It wasn't ruining my life per se. And in 2008, after a year of graduating college, I enlisted into the United States Army. So that was it. It just increased my addiction, right? Because it's very socially acceptable.
Interesting.
I believe it's socially acceptable anywhere, but it's just more socially acceptable in the military. So the two things that were the worst things for me is it was promoted, right? It was a way to bond with your teammates. And the second thing, I continued to be successful throughout my career. There was never any times that I failed a course or a training event due to alcohol. So I never had that, well, if I would have stayed sober, I would have passed, right? Or I would have been successful. So I in 2010, I earned my Green Beret. I went to 5th Special Forces Group and immediately dove into that culture. And that culture is brotherhood, team cohesion, partying, but hey, we get the job done, but we'll have fun on the side. Well, what I thought was fun, right? And for me, right, it became to be a part of my life, my everyday life. And like I said earlier, is I was able to go to Ranger School, Combat Dive School, all these courses that really require a lot of physically and mentally output. And I was able to pass those while drinking. That was probably the critical moment in my career where I had a problem. The problem was there, and it was clear, right? It was able to ruin my first marriage. It never really hurt my finances, but it was ruining my life.
Yeah.
And however, I just
so let
continued to move forward.
Because it sounds like you're like your own monkey wrench in the fact that like you're not the monkey wrench. It's so counterintuitive. And I think I kind of had that kind of going on early in my life too, because I guess the most common description of that is that you are functioning, right? In a person's career like yours, like, I mean, you're in the teams. You're an elite human, like on the planet. So like, not only are you still managing to perform highly above like other humans in general, and then almost everybody in the service, in any of the services branches, right? So of course, like you get a green light, man, you get a pass, because it's like, well, hey, he showed up and he ran and he nailed the target. And so nobody's going to stop you. And that's the problem. Like I suffered from that too. Like I was doing well enough. I was sending money to my family at certain points. And it was like I was checking off enough boxes that nobody would get in the way or even acknowledge that there was like a serious problem. So I know what it feels like to kind of like work against yourself, right? With your own success. Absolutely. It sounds like so wild.
And the chaos that surrounded my job, it was like I was comfortable in that, right? So when there was no chaos, I created it myself by drinking. And there's times when I stopped, maybe for deployments, I was didn't drink and then back. But we all know, if anybody has relapsed before, which it doesn't matter if you're clean 2 days or 20 years. That second you go back into that addictive behaviors, that brain is like, I remember, I know what we used to do. Let's go. Let's do the same thing. So that I never slowly, worked my way up to what I was doing. It was always, okay, I stopped drinking for a deployment. I come back, boom, I'm right back where I left when I right before I left. So I guess that was another reason why I figured I didn't have a problem, right? If I was not stateside, I was able to stay sober. And then towards the end of my career, roughly say 3 years ago, there's a course that I was going to go up to in Washington, D.C., and I knew that I was not going to be successful. It was a very mentally challenging course, and I knew I wasn't going to be successful where I was at, right, and currently in my life, right. The way I was doing and the way I was acting, my brain was completely, surrounded, and immersed in alcohol, 24/7. I was having shakes. So I went to my superiors and I said, hey, I have a problem. I need some help. And that was minus another detox attempt. That was the first real treatment program that I attended. And it was a 30-day program, isolated facility, and it
how
really didn't
respond?
provide me.
Sorry to interrupt you there, Ben. How do they respond? Like, are they angry? Do you get punished? Like, how does it look like? At level.
I mean, I'm
of, like,
sure they were
disappointed.
However, they invested a lot of money into my training, and if someone goes and says, "Hey, I have a problem," then there's systems in place to get help. Is it the right help? No, but it's help. right? That 30-day program that I went to was in a hospital setting. I sat there for 30 days, did no physical activity, very minimal counseling sessions, right? For an individual who I deployed 8 times to the Middle East, a lot of, traumatic experiences, a lot of PTS associated with that. And the therapist at that facility, was not adequately trained to handle someone who has as extensive traumatic experiences as I did. So we didn't really unpack much of that. We unpacked, that the alcohol was bad. Everyone knows that, right? And a little bit of skills, right? Just a tiny bit enough to give me an opportunity to be successful, right? And throughout that time, I was able to stay sober for 18 months. And I was miserable those 18 months. I was, I thought that, well, if I take out alcohol, then poof, my life is going to be better, right? Everything's going to be smooth. I'm going to be able to handle life stresses. Relationships are going to go well. I'm just going to get a free pass for life because I just stopped taking alcohol, right? And I could have been further from the truth, right? And that's one thing that people don't, some people don't understand is treatment is easy, right? I'm in an isolated facility, have, people around me. They tell me what I can and can't do. I don't really have to make decisions. I'm on autopilot. And then you get back home and poof, all these other stressors that you had to deal with. Well, guess how I was dealing with those stressors? Well, by drinking. So now I had no skills to handle the stressors that were always going to be there when I returned.
So were you, Ben, so you're not happy, but were you pissed? Like, were you like a dry drunk? Were you like pissed off, like kind of like, grumpy and shit? Like,
I would say, yeah, there's a lot of depression that was associated with that, a lot of anxiety, a lot of, another mistake I had was I thought that if I had a craving or urge to drink, then I'm a failure, right? I should have been fixed. I should not have those thoughts. And every time I had those thoughts, I would get angry at myself. And I'd get, that negative self-talk would come in and I would be down on myself. Now I welcome and I'm okay with those thoughts because the thoughts are as a thought, right? Without action, it's nothing.
Right.
However, back then it was very, weighed heavily on me. And I sought, attention from other people, tried to get validated from other people, all while staying, just using by sheer determination to stay clean. Right. And there's, that 18 months, there's probably some good days, right? But majority of them were those bad days where, I was just like, I'm making it till my head hits the pillow and then I'm going to get up and the next day is going to be, better. And it just, wasn't the case. So those,
ironically,
were those, yeah.
So Ben, like ironically, what I call it, I know I'm talking to a guy in the service you're a soldier and I'm not, but I call it the trenches. I call that the trenches. Like when it's like you're scratching and clawing, brother, it's like, man, it's I don't miss it. I don't miss it. That's for sure. And this happened, because for me, it was like about probably like, I don't know, I'd say like 3 to 5 months. I was like in that, like pissed off stage. But so you did 18 months, man. And so you're not seeing any light at the end of the tunnel. Like you just like hit the pillow.
No.
Alarm goes off.
Yeah, and I got myself into a toxic relationship, and the one thing that was the major fault was I tried to do it alone. Right, I didn't involve myself in a supportive community. So that coupled with the toxic relationship, that weighed a lot heavily on me, right? So trying to stay sober, trying to figure out who this new Ben is, trying to create new ways to handle life, coupled within a toxic relationship without a support system or community, it really just set me up for failure. And whenever that
was the person
comes,
was the person in the relationship, were they sober or were they still drinking?
Yes, no, they were sober. They decided not to drink.
Okay.
However, there's a couple times here and there, but there was majority of the time it was, she did stay sober. Very toxic relationship. It was not a healthy one, but I saw external validation. And that was my thought is, well, I guess this is my life, right? This is how recovery, and this is what sober Ben has to deal with. And that's so far from the truth. It always, I was talking to someone the other day and they're like, would you go back and, change the way you handle things? I was like, yes, if I could take what I know now back then, right? Like I would love to take this Ben that, the July 2024 Ben back, 5, 6, 7, 10 years ago. But no, I don't want to go back there. If I'm going to be that same person, absolutely not. So, those 18 months were a struggle. Some catastrophic events happened with my now ex-wife. She, and one thing led to another, and I relapsed. She was very, I felt that I was being manipulated, and she involved my subordinates, and so she's blending the personal life and the work life, and it was just to the point where I just couldn't handle it, and I relapsed. And for that 7 days, it was how much can I put my body through? Right? How hard can I push? And on the 5th day, I actively tried to, drink myself to death. Right. And that was a very dark time. Very, very dark time. The thoughts that were in my mind, right. The failure, right. Like I spent 18 months doing something and I failed at this. There was a lot of resentment and a lot of blame towards, others. And I take accountability for my actions. It was my choice to decide to drink. And I think that was, I hate to say this, but it needed to happen. Because I now know 2 things came about that relapse. I now know how quickly I can go back to the old Ben. And that scares the crap out of me. And 2 is it opened the doors for me to go to Treehouse Recovery, where it dramatically changed my life and saved my life. So if I would have never relapsed, would I have fought through those 18 months and got, divorced and moved on? Maybe. Would I have been the same person? You could play the coulda, woulda, shoulda game all day long. What I know for a fact is where I'm at now and what I've learned about addiction, and what I'm doing moving forward. I don't think I would be here if I didn't have gone through those struggles and those hard times and that rock bottom, right? There's a couple times that in the moment we're able to convince ourselves like this is the rock bottom, right? This is it. This is the worst. Right. And then a couple weeks go by and it's like, well, I thought the past that was rock bottom, but now this is even worse. It just continues to snowball and snowball. To the point where it's like you got to do something and you got to humble yourself and be like, okay, like take the wheel. Tell me what to do. Tell me how to, if you've had more time, let me learn from you. I don't know everything, and I still don't. I still make mistakes.
When you're talking about the rock bottom moments, man, that internal speak, the monologue, if you will, like other people looking at you from the outside in, they're like, that's rock bottom. And it's like, man, the inside is totally different, there's moments when I was convinced it was the bottom. And then there's way more moments that other people were convinced that that's when you did it. And it's like, man, you don't ever figure that out until it's already happened. It's a sunk cost kind of thing. And so even now, I really I can't pinpoint it. People ask me, I mean, that's probably like one of the number one questions. Like, oh, when did it all turn around? And I even asked that same damn question. And I can't even answer it for myself because it's just, it doesn't work like that. It's like, it doesn't look like, oh, you hit this point, bing, the process is much murkier. It's a much more gray kind of a scenario than people might imagine. But you're touching on a lot of really, really important things, at least for myself. And it's like the relinquishing of control and like letting go, because you went over the white knuckling part for yourself.
Yeah.
It was the 18 months. You just you buckled down, and from what I could probably gather from you as a person and as a man is that you have a strong will. And so you just willed yourself through. And that's not necessarily, from what I understand, the way to do it. You have to incorporate, you have to white knuckling it. It's just not, it's not the right recipe. And so you also mentioned Treehouse Recovery. And so is that who you're working with now? And that's like, what's going on with that?
Yeah. So yes, both. I was able to go to Treehouse Recovery for 3 months in Orange County, California. And that the program was different, right? And when I say different is a couple of things, right? We lived off site from the facility, right? We lived in a team house where there's 3 teams, 3 houses, and we commuted to and from the facility riding our bikes, in our teams, within a small group of people, accountability partners. And that was extremely beneficial for me, is because I didn't have to experience the cultural shock of leaving a isolated facility, because I drove my bike past liquor stores. Right. So I was able to do that time and time again for 3 months. It almost numbed me to the part that I didn't notice it. Right. And I remember back when I had that 30-day inpatient where it was a isolated facility, and I would start, when I passed the liquor store, I would start getting, my hands would get sweaty, and I would start looking, and I couldn't stop, looking at it. So I was able to take away that added pressure of being released after a controlled environment, i.e. treatment, and back into recovery. So I was able to face those obstacles with a community. And then secondly, we focus on physical fitness, right? 3 parts of Treehouse Recovery: physical fitness, knowledge, and community. And the physical fitness component is the amount of chemicals that are released when you do some physical activity are the same chemicals released when we drink or drug, right? So I was training my brain in a healthy way to get the same dopamine, the same chemicals that I was seeking, when I was an alcoholic. And then the knowledge, our society right now has vast amounts of knowledge at our fingertips through the phones, through the internet. We can get knowledge anywhere. So we started thriving and wanting. I knew alcohol was bad, right? And I hinted at this earlier. It was I get it. That was bad. But I didn't know what was going on in my brain, right? What was really the battle between my limbic, state of mind, the fight or flight, and the prefrontal cortex, the reasoning. I didn't know the stages of relapse, of knowing that when I take that drink, I've already hit stages 1, 2, and 3 of relapse, right? And the cycles of, and how to identify it. So all that knowledge that I was equipped with, that's when the light bulb kind of started, sparking in my head. Is listen, okay, I now have that. I now have the data that I needed to justify to myself, hey, this was wrong, this is wrong, or this is what's happening when I have those urges, right? Because I mentioned earlier is when I had those cravings early on in those 18 months, I felt like a failure, right? Now I know, oh, wow, I'm having those cravings. Let's take a look at what my day was going. Was I short? Was I doing this? Let's take a step back in my limbic state of mind where I, fight or flight towards an argument with a coworker or spouse or anything, or did I just am I having a bad day, right? Let's think about this. And the last is the community aspect. Is we are a small, we've been at Treehouse Recovery has been around for 10 years, but it's a smaller community. There's only 2, PHP programs, and then there's a couple IOP programs. So we're very close knit, and about 98% of the employees at Treehouse Recovery were past clients. So we know
Right.
all the data. We've been through where that client is. Like, I understand where you've been through, and I understand. And guess what? I'm here where I'm at right now because of what the tools I'm learning. So we're living proof of that. And that really gave
Yeah.
me that hope and that motivation to continue to drive forward. And I loved it so much, and I loved helping individuals so much that as I completed the IOP portion here in Nashville, Tennessee, I was able to get hired as, in the business development role, where now I get to pay it forward. Now I get to talk to veterans, to active duty, to law enforcement, to regular civilians, and to let them know, listen, like, you are not alone, right? I've not been exactly where you're at, but I guarantee,
Right.
That's the great thing about recovery communities is all of our stories are very similar. We like to think it's not, right? We're like, well, no, my story is much worse than yours. And we play that whose story's worse game. But you and I, Ryan, we've been through the same feelings, same guilt, same shame, same negative talk, depression. Although we have different backgrounds, we still have the same feelings and emotions attached to those. And that's why that community aspect makes it so powerful. And I see that now being able to talk to people who need help, being able to talk to clients who are getting help, and then the graduates, continuing their level of care. It's like, it's crazy, isn't it? And they're like, yeah, I was, a lot of times they're like, I'm sorry, I said these things, or I just wasn't in the right mood to hear you tell me I needed help. Like, I get it. Like, there's no animosity between us, because guess what? I was in the exact same position you were.
Right.
So
Right.
it's an honor and blessing.
Dude, so the physical aspect of it, man, because I've seen this like through my Facebook page. A lot of people have reached out, and the one of the more powerful sources of my knowledge is the physical exercise part, because I used to be a physical trainer, and
Yeah.
I've been able to leverage that in other people's lives to solidify their either recovery or maybe it's their goal orientation, whatever it might be. I've leveraged that knowledge about like physical exercise, and I didn't see it coming. Like, that's my point here, is that it's like I didn't quite realize how powerful it was. Now, I used it personally, and I know that it was a big deal for me. However, I underestimated how much I could leverage that in other people's lives in an almost effortless way, because it was just something I've been around. I've been around gyms and things, and I really even today I was talking to a guy. I've had 2 conversations with the guy. 2 conversations. He sent me a picture of himself. He's absolutely ripped. And all I told him to do was like 100 push-ups a day and some mountain climbers. And he took that one little thing about physical exercise, and he's done it every day for a month and a half. And I was like blown away. He's actually used that to leverage his recovery. And so I know I understand that the power is there. What I didn't understand, and it makes total sense to me, is that the knowledge of where we're at, the knowledge era, if you will, of it just, we're so used to having like any amount or depth of maybe not understanding, maybe that's going too far, but like, it just takes a Google, man, and you can see, an entire biological explanation of a relapse. And so we hold that now as the bar, right? So people like yourself, and especially when you speak about it, man, you're so articulate. It's so, man, it's impressive, and it just spews value, right? And I can see how that can be applied in these conversations, because I think you're right. We demand that now. We demand that. And again, I keep wanting to say understanding, but I don't think that that's appropriate. Understanding is like more like empathy and stuff like that. But like having a knowledge of what's happening biologically during a relapse, man, that's some valuable stuff. That's crazy.
Absolutely. And the feeling, right, of that workout, right, that, and being able to, what we also do is we will sit there and we'll check in before our workouts, right? So we're like, hey, how are you feeling? right? And at first I was like, okay, fine, I'm feeling like this. And then afterwards we check out and like, how are you feeling? Are you feeling better? So we're adding that value to it where it's like, listen, you now can tangibly see you're at this point, you do X, you feel better, right? Now that X used to be an unhealthy behavior, but now that X is physical activity. So now you can reassociate that feeling and that dynamic. And then the second portion of it is there's science that proves that once we get those chemicals released in our brain, those healthy chemicals, that dopamine, and we're immediately inserted into an academic setting, we are able to recall, learn and use that knowledge in the time of chaos, right? So feel great, right? You're just get done working out, you're sweaty, you feel great. You're like, man, I feel amazing. Boom, get into the books, start learning about this stuff because you're more in tune, you're more aware of your surroundings. So now you're going to learn and you're going to pay attention more than, if you wake up or towards the evening, do that study session. So that was that, we strategically placed the academic portion into it right after the workouts to facilitate, that the brain is ready and thriving for that knowledge. Now we're giving it to them and then they're able to retain it. That was utilizing that data and that science and putting it in the correct way was extremely beneficial for me. And I've used it since then, as life doesn't slow down and life takes every opportunity sometimes to add more stress to you, or you do it to yourself. I've used that knowledge. I'm like, okay, where am I at right now? Why am I thinking like this? Is this rational? Am I charged with emotions? Am I in my limbic state? Do I need to step away? Like I'm able to assess this because I have that data and that knowledge now. So that was that. I think that right there sets the Treehouse Recovery apart from the vast majority of treatment facilities is because of the physical fitness, and we make it fun, right? In Orange County, we take whitewater rafting boats and we ride in the surf. We do some sand running up and down the sand. And then we'll go into a structured like workout gym. So it's not monotonous. You're not doing it by yourself. You're doing it with people. There's people encouraging you, paying attention to your numbers, you're lifting, are you doing it correctly? All those things was just mind opening to me is how we can use that.
One thing I'll share a phrase that I use is by observing our actions, we map our improvements. And you started, but when you're talking about going into a workout, like a session, an exercise session or a lift, whatever, you'd say, how do you feel? And you would observe it. And then you'd ask either yourself or another person, you'd ask it again. And so the observation before and the observation after, and then, I imagine you might be recording it. Maybe you're not recording it, maybe writing it down, maybe not. But the observation is what allows for the improvements to be mapped out. And I think that, there's a lot of value there. And so I don't know much. I can tell you this, like, I didn't have the same experience with programs here, and I'm actually in Orange County as well. I'm in the Florida version.
Oh, gotcha.
Whenever I tell people from California, I'm from Orange County too, or they like Florida, and I'm like, yeah, I get it. We're Floridians, and a lot of scumbags down here, but it's they're not all created equally, man. They're not all created equally, and I can say that. From what I can tell, man, you guys have your stuff dialed in there. And so one thing that's missing from your story, or maybe you said it and I didn't remember it, but how long ago was it that you started at Treehouse when you first went there as like a client?
July of last year.
That's it?
Yeah.
Dude. You're a progress machine. In my mind, I'll let you know. Like I thought this was like a 10-year ago thing. I don't know why in my brain I was. But so okay, a year ago. Congratulations on here.
Still very fresh. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's still there, right? The urge is there. It's not as as far as it could have been in my rearview mirror, right? It's still there. It's still visible. I'm driving fast away and I'm doing the right things, but I know that I've given myself a lot of grace, right? And I've gotten to this equation where I can fail and I can be okay with failure, right? There's one thing I cannot fail at. One thing is I cannot go back to drinking. That is a no-fail thing for me. Everything else, can I be short? Can I be, angry? Can I be depressed? Can I have anxiety? Can I, snap at people? Can I say the wrong things? Yes, all the time. And I still do. I'm not perfect, right? And no one is. But I give myself that grace and understand that, okay, well, that could have gone better, but guess what? I'm not drinking, right? So that has helped me tremendously, move further away than I needed to be in the rearview mirror of my past, right? And I never want to forget that. I never want to forget that feeling. Even if I have 10 years, I still want to remember that. And that's why I enjoy being in this, work environment. Because now I don't lose sight of that, because complacency kills. And when we get complacent and we think we have it under control, that's when we start making mistakes. Keeping that close, near and dear to my heart, and that feeling, it's sometimes painful to go through. I can't believe I went that way, or those are the events that happened. But I know that's a necessity to remind me of A, where I'm at now, and B, the progress I've made.
Yeah, that's, maybe you're familiar with him, David Goggins. He calls it a cookie jar. And so he calls it his cookie jar, and he goes in there and he has these memories of when he, either successes or failures or whatever it might be. But for me, my cookie jar, when I think back, it takes me no time at all to be grateful. It takes me one memory of some shitty job I did at a work program, it's so easy for me to just pluck a memory of any of those experiences or circumstances that I was in. And I'm grateful. I'm damn, it could be having a rather tough day. And I'm okay, all I got to do is I think back, 6 years ago. I'm holy shit, I'm all right. It's a wild experience, and I'm grateful for it for now. But I don't want to know any more about the cookie jar. I want to know about the future for you, brother. What do we? So now you're working with Treehouse. What's on the horizon? What do you got moving forward towards in the future?
Working with a lot of nonprofits, a lot of individuals, a lot of veterans, a lot of veteran organizations. Help work with the VA. The VA system is a system. It's not the easiest system to navigate, and especially when an individual is at the in their rock bottom or in the trenches, right? So it's being there for that person and being able to give them that sense of hope that there is a place to get better. And if that person is fit for, if Treehouse Recovery is the right place for that person, then great. Absolutely. If Treehouse Recovery is not, then we'll find them someplace else, right? That's the most important thing is you call, you may not be ideal candidate or want to come to Treehouse. Well, we're going to get you help regardless. And that's just demonstrates the nature of how we view individuals and addiction. And then a couple other things. I've started, speaking and doing some obviously podcasts, working with Team Machine, Nick Lake, website. It's called The Forge, and The Forge is great. It has 14 different subject matter experts. So anywhere from life coaching to mindfulness coaches to fitness coaches, to cognitive behavioral therapists, to training on that. And then there's a mental health and recovery. And I'm the forum mediator for that. So it gives another virtual community to someone, someone else who may be struggling or may not be struggling, but needs that sense, that needs that community and the resources that the Forge provides. So that is a significant, fulfilling endeavor that I'm doing. I love it. I love connecting. I love learning from the other coaches. And that sparked my last endeavor is I created Resilience Reconnaissance. And it's a website. It's a personal one-on-one life coaching, consulting. I'm not the biggest fan of the word coaching, but it is what it is. And I take pride of getting to know someone and letting them tell me, how they're going to accomplish some goals. Like I can sit there and through my, training and what I've accomplished, I could definitely say, oh, you need to do X, you need to do Y, and then you need to do Z. But that's not going to resonate with an individual, right? My approach is let's connect, let's communicate, and let's collaborate. And you tell me where you want to go, and then I'm going to help you get there. But it's all going to be your ideas, because I can tell you, if you're not invested in wanting to do those things, then we're not going to achieve what we need, that we want to achieve. So I enjoy doing that, although it's very in the infant stages. It's just a process and being there for someone who wants to take that next step of personally or professionally. And if I can help them, then great. And if I can't, then okay.
Well, I love it, man. I mean, so you're attacking on many fronts. Right?
I am.
Yeah. Like we've got Treehouse, we've got the Forge, and then we have your personal one-on-one coaching, mentoring. Yep. I like the word mentor as well.
Absolutely. It's go ahead. Oh, it's just resilience-reconnaissance.com, and that's the mentoring, the one-on-one stuff. But the Forge is a great community as well, and then. Yeah, like how I look at it is they all bleed into one another, right? If you have a substance abuse problem, then I got resources for you. If you want a virtual community, then I have resources. But if you want that intimate one-on-one, then I also have that too.
That's amazing, brother. And just so you know, I know you repeated the website is say it again though.
So it's Resilience Resilience-reconnaissance.com. And you can.
And I'm gonna have links. of everything. We're gonna get everybody hooked up with everything that you got, and so we'll all be looking forward to those resources in the development of your program. It's all super badass stuff, man. You're an impressive individual for certain, and I'm incredibly grateful that you joined us today, brother. Thank you so much, Ben, for coming on, man.
Thank you, Ryan. I really appreciate it.
All right, brother.